We'll go ahead and get started. Welcome. Welcome to the Healing Power of Plant Foods cooking class. I'm April Ashcroft, and I'm super happy to have you here tonight. And I want to welcome those of you who are watching from home on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in. It's great to have you. And just in case I forget at the end of class, if you would like my recipes for the foods I'm going to be demonstrating in this class, you can send me an email at healthforlifecooking@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to send those out to you. Again, that's health4lifecooking@gmail.com. Same with you guys. In fact, there's a recipe that I'm using tonight. I'm not demoing it, but I'm using it in one of my recipes for a sesame parmesan that I meant to include on the sheet, and it's not on there. So if you want it, in fact, I could probably just tell you what it is, because when we get to it, I can probably just tell you, because I just made a batch before we came tonight. So, but anyway, welcome. I'm glad you guys are here tonight. We are heading into the holiday season, and with that is also the season of colds and flus and sicknesses, right? And weight gain and stress, and all of those combined wreaks havoc on our body. And we have the power, we do, for us personally, to resist those pathogens that might come into our body that would make us sick, from family or just wherever you're at. You might pick something up. Our body has the ability to resist that and to fight that and to destroy it and get rid of it so that you don't get sick. It also, our body also has the capabilities of handling stress if we are fed well. And we're also capable of maintaining our weight throughout the holidays and still eating yummy, delicious foods. How great is that? How about, instead of looking forward to January and saying, yeah, I'm going to make this new resolution in January and I'm going to lose 50 pounds or whatever, 10 pounds, why don't we start now so that we don't gain that extra holiday weight, which makes it even harder to lose whatever weight you want to lose in the first place. So let's start today, okay? And it can be done deliciously. I'm going to show you some recipes tonight. We're doing healthy holiday sides, and these are simple healthy holiday sides. Every single one of them is pretty simple. So I'm happy that you are here tonight. You know, the foods that we put into our body is such a great contributor to our overall health and how we feel. You know, I want to feel good through the holidays as well, not just be free from sickness and other illnesses and avoid the weight gain, but I also want to feel really good and energetic and be able to go and do the shopping I need to shop and enjoy my grandkids and all that kind of stuff. So, so I've just got a few things going right now because I wanted to get them done ahead of time, because I get doing too many things and I forget things and I forget the potatoes, and by the time they're done boiling, they're already mashed. So anyway, these are Yukon Gold potatoes for the mashed potatoes that we're doing tonight. I've just cut them up in chunks, just normally covered them, boiling them, and they're pretty much done. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off the burner. And this is 3 pounds. And let's see, yeah, those look like they're done. And then in the front burner here, I've got this one right here. I've got 2 heads of cauliflower. And again, I didn't cut them too small. I just cut the head in about 1/4 maybe, and threw them in there. And I've got my 4 cloves of garlic in there as well that I am steaming with just a small amount of water. I don't want to add too much moisture to this. I want to keep the moisture low because we don't want to add too much moisture to our potatoes. We're going to combine the two. In fact, I'm going to grab a wooden spoon here and make sure it's not sticking. Okay, and those are pretty much soft as well, so we'll go ahead and turn that burner off. And then over here, I've got a 1/2 head of steamed cauliflower rice. This is actually not a 1/2 head. Are you guys familiar with cauliflower rice? The frozen cauliflower rice at Costco, they come in little bags. And I think they're about a 1/2 head, and that's what your recipe for your gravy calls for, is a 1/2 head of cauliflower. So we're doing lots of cauliflower tonight. Cauliflower makes a great creamy addition to whatever kind of cream soup or sauce or whatever you're making. So I've just got one of those bags, and I've just steamed it in a little bit of water is all. All right, so first we're going to do our sweet potato vegetable medley, and this is just a regular, you're just putting vegetables together and roasting it in the oven. But I'm going to show you a different way of roasting without using any oil. People ask me about that. How do you roast without oil? And I'm going to show you tonight. And you know, it's a little bit different, you know, when you're eating plant foods and you're trying to stay away from oils, and I'll talk just a little bit about that, why I stay away from oils. But things, you know, they a little bit different taste, a little different texture, but you can still make it good. So I've already got two, or let's see, about most of my potatoes cut up. So they're just yams. Sweet potatoes is actually what they really are. From what I understand, they don't grow yams, so you can't get real yams in our country. So these are technically sweet potatoes, but I've got about 2 pounds of them. I've got them cut up already. These are organic, and I'm leaving the skins on them. So, and all I did was just cut them lengthwise, and I've cut the tip off too. Sweet potatoes are so very healthy for you. Do not just eat them over the holidays. And if you don't like them, and you know, then I suggest learning to like them because they're so good for you. There's communities around the world that, you know, the base of their diet are sweet potatoes. Japanese eat a lot of sweet potatoes. In fact, they have a sweet potato called the Japanese sweet potato. Anybody ever try it? Natural Grocer sells them. They have a purple skin and a white flesh. They are like candy. Seriously, well, this is somebody that doesn't really eat much candy, so it might not taste like a Snicker bar, but it's super, they're so sweet and so delicious, and this is the time of year you want to buy them because they're in season. They actually, the ones there, they say they're from California, so I guess we can grow them here in this country. I'm going to learn how to grow them because they are super good. They're like $3.39 a pound, which is terrible, so they're like my once a week Sunday meal because, yeah, can't do that every night. Anyway, so we've got 2 pounds of sweet potatoes right there. And then I'm going to add 1 onion. And this is just a regular yellow onion. And yeah, onions, powerful anti-cancer compounds. They also boost your immune system. In fact, the best way to boost your immune system, which is how you resist colds and flus, viruses, and things that might come your way, is to have a strong immune system. And to make that immune system strong is by feeding it fiber. Your immune system consists of microbes, your microbiome, your gut bacteria, and you want to feed them well, and they will feed you back really well with a strong immune system, with short-chain fatty acids that play a role in so many different aspects of your health. Oh, that's my timer going off, telling me that I set my timer right. And, uh-oh, except I still want that at 350. Hold on. Enter, there we go. Okay. So onions have organosulfur compounds that protect your cells from DNA damage, that literally kill cancer cells. So we're just going to quarter that onion. And then we're going to half that. We halved it and then sliced them in 4s, and then we half that again. So I'm just going to mix those in with our sweet potatoes. And you can make them as big as you want. I mean, really, there's no special way to do any of this. But you want to kind of have the vegetables somewhat the same size so that they cook, you know, uniformly. Cook the same. So we want to include onions in our diet every day. A large population study with including like 10,000 people showed that those who ate the most onions had the least cancers of all types. Onions boost your immune system. Okay, we're going to add some broccoli to this. And we're going to add, let's see, we're going to add about 4 cups of broccoli. Probably maybe not even quite that much. And the way I cut these, you know, cauliflower is a little tricky to cut, but the way I cut these is I'm actually not going to do the stalk. I'm just going to do the heads. But I just cut it as far up as I can, and then the broccoli florets just kind of fall apart like that. And then you've got your florets just already kind of naturally in little florets. And then you can cut down your larger size ones, but we're going to keep those. And I just kind of measure with my hands sometimes. And of course, you can use a big variety of different vegetables. You can use some carrots. In fact, I pulled out my carrots when I was pulling out everything, and I was like, oh, there's no carrots in this, probably because I've got sweet potatoes in there. So all these foods, another great thing about them is they're all high in antioxidants. Antioxidants protect your cells and keep you from aging. Antioxidants are great for your immune system, boosting your immune system. Our cells are attacked every day by oxidation, and a good example of oxidation is an apple. When you set it on the counter after you've cut it and it starts to turn brown, it starts to oxidize. And our cells of our body do that every day. Scientists believe we get about 10,000 oxidative hits a day, and we combat that with antioxidant-rich foods, which are the things that I'm making here tonight. Let's see. I was going to see. I am going to do a little bit more broccoli here. That wasn't quite 4 cups. So the color in the food are your antioxidants. So that's how you tell if there are lots of antioxidants in a food. So your broccoli, red bell peppers. Red bell peppers are super high in vitamin C. Of course, vitamin C is an antioxidant, and we all know that when it's cold and flu season, we want to take vitamin C, extra vitamin C. Well, instead of taking a pill, the food is so much better. Red bell peppers, red chili peppers. I find it interesting that those foods, the red peppers, in fact, red peppers are the way to eat a pepper. Green peppers are unripe red peppers. And when they become red, they're higher in antioxidants, and they aren't ready to be picked until towards the end of the summer, about this time of year, and they're super high in vitamin C, and so they're there to protect our cells from our immune system and boost our immune system when we're just going into the colder time of year when we tend to get sicker more. Nature's very smart. It provides the foods the time of the year that we need them. Okay, and then I'm going to throw in some red bell pepper, and I'm going to do, these are huge red bell peppers, so I'm not going to do both of them. I'll do about 1.5, but there's one that I've got cut up, and again, I've got just kind of bite-sized pieces. And I just like to cut off the tip, like so, and then cut it down the center and remove those seeds. And of course, that's where probably the best part of the food is, right there in the seeds. Talking about microbes and bacteria, every plant food has its own combination of bacteria, healthy bacteria, microbes that feed our gut, feed our immune system. And every plant has its own bacterial composition as well. And when we eat these plants, we put those bacteria into our body. So instead of taking a probiotic, which might be important if you've had the flu and have been on a round of antibiotics, it's important to take a probiotic, but you get those probiotics from food as well, from raw food especially. When you cook food, you kind of destroy those. So you want to get raw foods, which we're not doing a lot of tonight. But okay, and then let's see, we've got bell peppers, broccoli. We're going to do some cauliflower. I've got a couple of cups of cauliflower here. I'm not sure how I'm going to stir the sauce into this, but we're going to try. Okay, and then let's see, we're going to go ahead and add actually our balsamic vinegar to this. First, I'm going to chop up some garlic, and garlic's got those same compounds as the onions, those sulfur compounds, powerful for fighting viruses, bacteria, protect you from colds and flus, help you to get better faster, help you to lose your friends if you eat too much of it, right?
April?
Yes?
You have green beans on here. Were you going to put green beans?
I am. I don't know where they're going to fit, but I'm going to attempt to get them in there, and also mushrooms. That's why I'm going to put the sauce in there now. I might have to divide it up into another pan. I had got a really huge bowl at home. I should have brought it. I wasn't planning very good. Okay, I'm just going to throw that garlic right in there. And then we're going to do a 1/4 cup of balsamic vinegar. And you can add as much as you want. I might, because there's so much here, I think I've got extra more than. Just going to go ahead and add that much more. And get another spoon. Oh, we got to add our seasonings. We're going to add some Mrs. Dash. We've got 1 tablespoon of Mrs. Dash table blend. You guys familiar with the Mrs. Dash seasonings? They're no salt seasonings. They are great. There's so many different flavors. There's a chipotle chili, extra spicy. I love the Mexican ones. Garlic and onion, the table blend, which is nice for this type of a dish. Lemon herb, which I love. You can use any kind of no salt seasoning. I used to use a lot of the Kirkland from Costco, Kirkland brand, no salt seasoning. And I do use salt, but just not a whole lot. Then I'm going to add our mushrooms. Let's see. First I'm going to see if there's another bigger bowl here, or a different bowl. Well, we're going to put some of these in this pot, just so we can kind of mix things together a little bit better. And we'll go ahead and add our mushrooms. Mushrooms are important. They have aromatase inhibitors that keep estrogen levels low. They help to decrease risk of cancer. They feed your gut, feed your microbiome, good bacteria. They have 22 proteins that help reduce cholesterol and blood pressure at the same time. Studies show that women who ate 1 button mushroom a day decrease risk of breast cancer by 64%. That's just 1 mushroom a day. And you want to cook them. They have a garetine toxin on them that they're not, I haven't heard any major things with that, but it's just advised that you cook them just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and add some green beans. I'm not going to add all 4 cups because we are out of room and we don't have that many here tonight to feed. So, yes, I do. Yeah, and I don't want to take the time to peel them. I don't know why I mean, especially if you're cooking them, if there's, that's going to destroy any kind of bad stuff that's on it. But I just wash them really good. I've heard that too, that you shouldn't wash mushrooms, but I don't know. I don't see why. So, by the way, if you have any questions, feel free to speak up. I like questions. Sometimes that reminds me of something else that I wanted to talk about. So, not only is this a tasty dish, but it's beautiful. Now, normally, most people would add throw on a bunch of olive oil. And that is something I really recommend that you greatly reduce, because it damages your endothelial cells in your blood vessel, so that the endothelial cells are responsible for producing nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is the most powerful vasodilator, meaning it dilates your blood vessels. Nitric oxide does. And when you eat a meal with olive oil, in particular, all oils, you're reducing that nitric oxide production. That nitric oxide is important for keeping your blood vessels flexible so that they can expand when you exercise, run up a flight of stairs, go out for a run in the morning. Your blood vessels expand, and you want to have that nitric oxide production working well. And when you eat a meal with olive oil, it slows blood flow 40% within 4 hours of consuming that meal. And we are just going all over the place here. So, as much as you can limit that, the better. Okay, we are just going to put these out on cookie sheets. Oh, you know what? We forgot our fresh thyme. After all that stirring, we're going to have to stir some more. Okay. And we want about a tablespoon of this fresh thyme. And I'm just going to take a leaf and just kind of strip with my fingers. And you could probably cut the stalks. I prefer to not put the stalks, too much of the stalk on there. And you can use dried, of course, but I really love the fresh. I don't use fresh herbs a whole lot. I love fresh dill. I do use that. But as a rule, I'm kind of a lazy cook. So I'll use the dry, but this is nice for a special holiday meal, right? We go out, we do a little extra for our holiday meals. And you can get a little bit of that stock on there. It's not a big deal at all. It's still good. In fact, thyme is probably one that grows fairly well around here. Does anybody grow herbs? Do you? Rosemary. Oh, yeah, rosemary. Everybody has rosemary. It grows crazy wild. And you could do, of course, you can do any combination of herbs on here. Whatever you like. Okay. I meant to have some of this done ahead of time. Any kind of fresh green leafies. In fact, talking about bacteria and feeding your body, feeding your gut bacteria, and how every plant has its own composition of bacteria. Dried herbs don't have any of that, those bacteria, that microbiome benefits. Only the fresh do. So Dr. Will Bolsewicz, he encourages people, he's a gastroenterologist, helps people with repairing their gut, and he recommends eating 30 different plant foods a week. That's what you aim for, and if you can go above that, great. And dried herbs don't contribute to that. Fresh herbs do. Okay. We might do a little bit more because that's a lot of vegetables. There they go. Huh? Well, the recipe's for a 1 tablespoon, but I'm going with a little bit more, just cause. I'm feeling like this is so much vegetables, but we don't want to overdo it. Okay, we're going to get our cookie sheet, and we can kind of mix it up on the cookie sheet. That'll help too. Isn't that beautiful? I love that. A beautiful Christmas meal. Of course, when you cook it, the vegetables kind of turn, they're not quite as vibrant. And we're going to do 2 cookie sheets. Another thing about oils is they are 120 calories per tablespoon, and it's 100% fat. And olive oil is still high in saturated fat. So we want to be really careful with that. The thing about eating free oils is what they're called. There's no fiber to bind those oils and keep them from getting absorbed into your bloodstream and then into your fat cells where you don't want them. So you eat olive oil and it goes right where you don't want it. You eat a nut or a seed or an avocado that has fiber, some of those oils are bound to the fiber, and so they get eliminated into the toilet. And so they don't go where you don't want them. Okay, and if there's any vegetables that are a little bit big that feel like you want to cut down, you'll want to do that. All right, now you can cover these with tin foil if you want. We're going to cover them up and just bake them basically first at 350 for, I think, 40 minutes. Is it 40 minutes? Yes. And hopefully they'll be done before it's time for you guys to go home. You might have to turn up the heat a little bit. In fact, I think I will do that. Well, no, we'll leave it alone. Okay, let's move over to we want to wait on the mashed potatoes. We're going to do the pumpkin pie. Because I know that's why all of you guys are here. All right. This is a super, super easy pumpkin pie. It's very helpful to have either a good blender, well, a good blender and a good food processor, or at least a good food processor. We are actually going to do the whole thing in our food processor. I used to do the cream in my blender, but I found out I can do it in my food processor. So I'm just going to stick with that. So we'll do our crust ingredients first. And this is a nut and date-based crust with oats in it. And we can grind this clear down to where it's really fine, like a graham cracker crust, or we can leave it a little bit chunky. And I'm going to leave it a little bit chunky. So we're going to start out with some walnuts. This is a cup of walnuts. I usually use pecans actually for this, but you can use pecans or walnuts. Walnuts are actually healthier. Talking about your endothelial cells and your blood vessels, walnuts have arginine and keep your blood vessels very flexible and free from cholesterol buildup and things like that. We've got to be really careful about how much we eat of nuts, though. In fact, all my dessert recipes are pretty high fat, high sugar, so I encourage people to be really careful about, I mean, they're healthy, but sometimes your mind plays tricks and says, they're so healthy, you can eat the whole thing, right? You want to eat the whole thing, but you can't because they're still very high fat, high sugar. So anyway, and I went to get my pecans and I was totally out and I was like, well, I'll just use walnuts. So we've got a cup of walnuts. And then we're going to put in some dates. Dates are my main sweetener in desserts. They're a whole food sweetener. All the parts of the plant are still there. All the fiber, all the vitamins, minerals, everything that's in there, still intact. We did take the seed out, and I'm going to just I'm just going to check them again because it's no fun. In fact, the pie I made last night, the one we're going to serve tonight, there you go. I missed one right there. I had it all grinding up, and I could hear the seed in there, so I had to kind of fish around for it. But because they're sneaky, they tend to stay in there. Okay. And you can get these small Deglet Nor pitted dates at Costco. They also have what they call a medjool date, and they're about the size of your thumb, actually bigger, a man's thumb maybe, actually bigger than that, maybe double the size of your thumb. But anyway, they are super soft and really decadent. You can stick a couple almonds on the inside, take the pit out, put some almonds on the inside, and eat it like a candy bar. It's so very, very good. But they're pretty expensive. So I buy the larger tub. They're the 3.5 pound, and they're the smaller dates. They're a little bit cheaper. Not quite as, I mean, they're good to eat, just as eating like a date, but not quite as rich and good. Okay, I'm just going to grind this up, just the dates and the nuts real quick right here. What's that? I did. I put just a little bit of vanilla. Did your recipe call for vanilla?
No.
I just put a little in there, not even thinking. So you can put it, you can add it, you can leave it out. Okay, now it's ground down. It's real sticky, which is what we want. I'm going to go ahead and add the oats. This is a cup of rolled oats. And like I said, I want to keep it just a little bit with some texture. I like how it just kind of adds to the texture of the pie. But you can grind it clear down if you want to, so it's more finely ground. Okay. This isn't going to be too sticky, but we're going to be okay. So I'm going to go ahead and dump this in the bottom of my pie pan. And what I've done for the one I'm going to serve, because it's just so much easier to cut when it's square, is I've put it in more of a square 8x8 cake pan. But you can do it in a pie pan like this. And we do bake this, and so I want to keep the crust. The crust will tend to burn, although I bake at super low temperature, so actually it probably wouldn't burn. I stopped putting the crust clear up to the edge when I was baking at a little bit higher temperature, but now that I bake at a lower temperature. The thing of it is, with this pie, you don't need to, you could do it raw. I mean, there's no egg in it or anything like that to where you have to cook it, but I do cook it a little bit, mainly to dry it out and concentrate it a little bit. So, okay, so we just spread it around the bottom of the pan and then press. Okay, and this isn't going to really stay in there as well. A lot of times, if you grind it down really fine and get it sticky, you can press it in there till it won't really fall out. But this is going to be just a nice crumb crust. That would be really super good. All right, so that's it as far as your crust goes. And then we're going to take our food processor again. And again, you can do this in the blender. If you have a Vitamix or a blend tip, it works really nice and blends it down super, super smooth. Smoother than what it's going to do in here, but this is a pretty good food processor, and it will grind it down to where it's pretty smooth. It just makes it, it's just a lot easier to grind down in here. So what I've got here is I've got 1 1/4 cup of almond milk, and this is homemade almond milk. I don't think I have the recipe on your sheet, but it's just basically 1 1/4 cups of almonds. Actually, it makes more than what you need for here, but this is 1 1/4 cup of almonds, and you just soak them for 8 to 10, 12 hours. And then you drain off that water, and then you blend that with 2 cups, yes, I think it's 2 cups, 2 cups of water. And that makes kind of a thick almond cream or almond milk. And you can thin it down if you want some kind of an almond milk for your cereal or whatever, and you don't want it as thick as it makes it for this, then you just add more water to it. But you can use regular almond milk, just store-bought, and you don't have to make your own. So I'm just going to add this to my blender jar. The thing with doing almond milk yourself, and again, it's just almonds and water basically, is you can make a small amount. And I found that when I bought almond milk in a container, I wasted half of it because I just never used it. By the way, I didn't mention this, is I've got the dates soaking in the almond milk. So I've got 25 of those pitted dates, like I put in the, what was it that I just did that I used it for? Oh, in the crust. And I soak them in that 1 1/4 cup of almond milk. And you soak that for just till they get really soft. I usually do stuff just overnight. If I'm going to do, if I know I'm going to make something, I'll just put it on the night before. Okay. All right, and then, oh yes, and then to this we're going to add our pumpkin, but we're not using pumpkin tonight. We are using butternut squash. I like butternut squash better. It's got better flavor. It's a little bit sweeter. And what I've done here is I've baked this whole. So I put it in the oven, just set it in the oven whole, turn it on at 350 and bake it, although I baked this one a little bit higher temperature because I was running out of time and wanted to cook it a little higher. And it's easier to peel when, I mean, the peeling comes off super easy. Although the outside is a little bit dry, you might want to cut away some of that. So much easier to peel, so much easier to cut when you bake them whole in the oven. This one's a little bit dry for some reason. But we're going to just cut off some of that outer. I'm sure you've all cut open or cut a raw winter squash and felt like you were going to cut your fingers off, right? So this just, and then you can just kind of, some of that tough skin is still stuck on there. I'm just going to cut that away.
April,
Yes.
did you cut it and have to take the seeds out before you bake it?
Nope, I just put it in the oven just the way it was.
What temperature seeds out after?
350 for about, actually I cooked this at 475 because like I said, I was kind of short on time. So I cooked it a little bit higher and it got browner than I normally let it get, but it's still fine. The inside's fine. For about an hour, at 350, about an hour and a half actually. 375, a little over an hour. I just prefer to cook my squashes that way. It's just easier.
I just tried red skin Hubbard squash.
Oh, have you guys ever tried red curry squash? Natural Grocer sells it. It looks like a small pumpkin. I think they're kind of coming at the end of the season though, but they are about this size and they are delicious. They're really sweet. In fact, I want to try doing a pie with them because the texture is a little bit firmer. It's super sweet though, and I don't think you would have to add like almond milk or anything, and maybe a little bit of some kind of sweetener to it, but not very much. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and add that, and then come back and get another, about another 3/4 cup on that, and that's already at a, doesn't have any tough skin on it, so we'll just do that. Oh, we just need 3/4 cup. So, okay, I'm not going to try to mash that down because it's a little bit firm. We'll add a little bit more. The pie that I made last night with the butternut squash that I used for that pie that I'm going to serve was actually a little bit sweeter than this one, so it's going to be probably a little bit better than this squash is going to make this. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and grind all this down, and we're going to put the seasonings in once I get it going. So using a blender to blend all this down, I think I mentioned it's really hard on your blender. If you've got a tough blender like a Vitamix or a Blendtec, it'd probably work okay, but you got to stop it and scrape it down and really help it along because it's really thick. Yes? What do I do with them? I eat them raw myself, or I feed them to my dog. He loves broccoli stock. When I'm cutting up broccoli, he's sitting there waiting for his handout. It's so weird. Yeah, I prefer, when I'm doing broccoli, I cut the stalks up and I'll eat it kind of while I'm fixing it. Just because, so cruciferous vegetables, I didn't mention this, green cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, kale, collards, and if you've been to my class, you've heard me say this before, they have powerful anti-cancer compounds, but some of those are lost when you cook it. So, so what they recommend for optimal health and maximizing your nutritional absorption of those anti-cancer compounds is to, if you're eating cooked broccoli or cooked kale or whatever cruciferous vegetable, that you have raw with it, because that raw vegetable brings in that myrosinase that's destroyed in cooking. and activates with that cooked those anthocyanins, which are your anti-cancer compounds. That makes sense. You want to bring in that raw. So if you're any kind of cooked cruciferous, you want to eat a little raw with it. 640. Okay. So we're going to put in our, well, we're going to help this down a little bit. Oh, there's some squash in there that's not doing its job here. I'm just going to pour in those seasonings while that's running. And this is 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, I think a 1/4 teaspoon of ginger, some nutmeg, and cloves. Your regular pumpkin pie seasoning, and you can use a pumpkin pie spice as well. I don't know why I've just never bought pumpkin pie spice. I just never thought about it. Thing with this, it does take a little bit longer to grind down into where you want the smooth texture. So one thing about, you know, these expensive kitchen appliances, this KitchenAid actually was less than $100. I found it on eBay actually. But new, of course, they're a little bit more. I don't know what they are new. It's been a long time since I've priced them. But and the Vitamix, of course, is a really expensive, you know, kitchen tool. But I use both of these more than I use any other appliance in my kitchen. It's a major appliance. They last forever. I have one at home of this that I use. This container is really kind of ugly looking, so I don't use it for my classes. But I have had that thing for over 20 years. Still going strong. Totally love it. I mean, I grind nuts and dates and seeds, and it's just never, I've burned up previous ones that I had before. Same with the Vitamix. I've had that about 18, 19 years, still going strong. I do replace the container because it gets kind of nasty looking, but they are well worth the price. If you're going to go to Whole Foods and you want to be grinding up things and making things like this, very well worth the money. Christmas is coming. You could put a plug in somebody's ear about that. Hey, if your kids went together on it, it wouldn't cost them hardly anything. There we go. See, that's looking really good. It's looking nice and smooth. Go a little bit more. Let's see. I don't think we put vanilla in that. We want to put vanilla in the inside part. So we'll go about a teaspoon or more. All right, so we will just get our pie filling here and pour it into our crust. It's already really thick. This makes a pretty dense pie. I mean, you've got those dates and that heavier, and you can use pumpkin. I used to always use pumpkin in this pie the same way, just 1 3/4 cup of pumpkin. But I do like the butternut squash. So I thought that would be a different way to do it. And sometimes you can't find pumpkin. Pumpkin's been like, I buy it for my dogs because it's good for them. But it's sometimes hard to find. I don't know what the deal is with pumpkin. I know Smith's, the shelves, well, a lot of the shelves are empty with a lot of things, but that was one thing that was missing for a while. And then I just put this back on here rather than try to scrape it off everything, and just give it a little spin, and that takes everything off that. And you could, because there's no egg or anything in this, you could just put it in pudding bowls and have it as a pumpkin pudding. I'm sure it would be really tasty. And of course, pumpkin and any kind of your winter squashes, that yellow color, the beta carotene and all the different carotene nutrients, carotenoid nutrients that are so good for us. Protect our cells, keep our immune system strong. I'm sure all those fall squashes are great for your immune system with all the colors because they come on in the fall, right before that season of colds and flus. Okay, and then I bake this. Now on your recipe sheet, I forgot to change it because I have changed it. I've changed this recipe like, I don't know how many times since my first recipe, but instead of cooking it for 40 minutes, I cook it at 350 for 20 minutes, turn the oven off, and just leave it in there for another 20 minutes, and it turns out just about perfect. You could pull it out a little sooner if you want. Again, it's a pretty dense pie, so if you wanted to make it a little bit more, keep it more pudding-like, I guess, you could take it out sooner. You can just play around with that time. But that's usually what I do. 20 minutes in the oven, turn it off, and then just leave it in there. Gas oven's going to be a little bit different, though, because gas shuts the heat right off. It doesn't stay hot. So in your electric ovens, they do stay hot. So I'm going to need this food processor again, so I'm just going to wash this up real quick. Let's see, how much long do we got on our vegetables? I didn't even, oh, only, is it 6:47? No, that's the time. That doesn't tell me how much time I have left.
You put them in at 6:25.
Oh, I did? Wonderful. Okay. So I'm just going to set that pie back there. We're not going to cook it right now. Okay, we're going to do our cranberry relish, which is a wonderful little side dish, salad, fruit salad. Okay, let's see, 35, I think we're just going to double this recipe. I wasn't sure how many would be here tonight, so we're going to start off with some apples, and because cranberries, we're using just some fresh cranberries, and they are pretty tart. So I want to add whatever sweet to this in natural form. So we're going to do some apples, and I like the Fuji apples. And we're just going to add those to our food processor work bowl here. Again, you're going to need some kind of a chopping. You could probably do I don't know, the Vidalia Chop Wizard. I'm sure some of you have that. I usually use it in my classes, but I didn't need to tonight. That could possibly work that way for this. But it wouldn't do a relish consistency. So, and an apple a day really does keep the doctor away. People that eat apples on a regular basis have less breast, colon, kidney, ovarian, and esophageal cancers. The more apples, the less tumors. Stops cancer growth at all times of growth. Decreases the risk of it metastasizing, moving to other parts of the body. And apples are, this time of year, oh my gosh, the apples are so wonderful. The farmer's market, downtown farmer's market, had a guy that come up from up north that had Fuji's, these, and Jonathan's, and they've been so good. All right, and then we're going to add some dates. Let's see, that is for the relish. So we're going to add, how many dates does it say for one recipe? So we're going to put about 8 dates in there. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we're going to go with our cranberries. We'll go with 2 cups. And these are just your ocean spray. I am going to rinse them off just a little bit because they aren't organic. In fact, I'm not sure you can get organic cranberries. I'm not sure I've ever seen them. And I just rinse my vegetables. Sometimes I'll do a little vinegar or lemon juice, but from what I understand, rinsing them is often gets quite a bit of whatever, pesticides might be on it. I don't think cranberries are a high pesticide food, actually. And all the benefit that you would get from cranberries because of the high, these are super high in antioxidants, super healthy because they're so low in sugar. It's probably one of your healthiest fruits is cranberries. But who wants to sit down and eat cranberries? You got to mix it with something to make them palatable. Okay, then we're going to do some walnuts. We're going to go with, let's see, we want about 1/2 cup with our doubling of the recipe. It's a good thing I didn't do it anymore. I wouldn't be able to fit anymore in this. And walnuts are just so good in this. This just is such a decadent salad. Okay, we're just going to grind it up a little bit. We just want a relish consistency. I can turn my spatula. Oh well. And we'll have to stop it and just scrape it down a little bit. In fact, I'm sure you're familiar with the berries, how good they are for anti-cancer. Berries are also good for reducing risk of heart disease. And cranberries are right there with it. And that is looking just about the way I like it. Just a nice relish consistency. And you could add a few more nuts to that if you want, but we're not going to do that. We'll just go ahead. And I find this is a really great dessert. In fact, what's really good too, a friend of mine introduced me to a dessert, snack, treat, whatever that the Australians do. Maybe it's just some region, I don't know, but she goes over to Australia a lot to do some of her work, and they have a kind of a relish salad like this that they do that's just walnuts, apples, and dates. It's called something, but I can't remember what it is, but that's so good. Okay. That is that. Super, super easy. All right, let's move on to our mashed potatoes and our gravy. Let's see, I think we'll do the gravy first. So we make sure keep the potatoes hot. Okay, so I'm going to take my cauliflower rice, or my riced cauliflower. And just, I don't want to set that on the counter. Not that the counter's dirty, but. All right, we're just going to put this in our blender. Along with, now you don't have to add any nuts or seeds to this, but the seeds, we're going to add some sunflower seeds. And the seeds are going to add some creaminess, some healthy fats to make this a little bit more rich tasting. So a 1/4 cup of sunflower seeds. Then we're going to go with our chicken style seasoning. And this recipe is on the front of that. It is just, let's see, or maybe it's on the back of it. Yeah, chicken style seasoning. And this comes from a little book called Of These You May Freely Eat. Really great little cookbook. That's got some great recipes in it. So, but there's the recipe for, I got permission from this lady to put these recipes in my book because I use them so much. So, let's see, with our gravy, we're going to go with 2 tablespoons of the chicken style seasoning, and that is 2 tablespoons. And then we've got some onion powder and salt. And that's it for now. We'll add some water once we get going here because there's a little bit of moisture still in the cauliflower from when we cooked it. And I just add the amount of water that I like to have. You can just kind of judge the way, you know, the thickness that you want it. That's still pretty thick. We're going to go a little thinner on that. And if your cauliflower gets cool, you know, if it's cooled down and you haven't had time to make it, you just blend it in this thing and it'll heat it up for you. It's already steamy. And that looks like a pretty good consistency. We may need to water it down again. I'm just going to put it back in my pan. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Super, super easy gravy recipe. I think you're going to really like it. That chicken style seasoning is really tasty. And you can buy that seasoning as well. It's on your recipe sheet. Did you guys see it on your recipe sheet? Okay. I thought I was hearing some chicken style seasoning where. That looks like it's actually pretty good consistency there. And I've done a mushroom gravy. I think last year I did a mushroom gravy where I just saute some mushrooms and put a little thyme in with it. And then I basically do the same, it's the same, kind of the same recipe. Although I don't know that I do as much nutritional yeast. So, all right. Okay, so we got our gravy there. I'm going to go ahead and turn that heat up. Whoops. How close are we to? We're pretty close to those vegetables being done, right? I think I might pull them out and check them because we want to uncover them and then finish baking them. Finish roasting them, I should say. They look really good. Let's see. still kind of hard. Those potatoes are still hard. Oh dear. Well, we're going to maybe just uncover them. Whoops. Uncover them and turn the oven up a little bit. Let's see. Kitchen. Guess we'll just cancel. Bake. Oven. 375. Enter. Start. Okay. So I just uncover them and then cook them for an additional 20 minutes or so. Hopefully that'll finish those potatoes up. All right, let's go to our mashed potatoes. So we've got our potatoes that are already cooked, and I'm going to just drain off the water. I meant to do that earlier. And then we're going to take our cauliflower because we're going to make our cream. So instead of using cream or milk, butter, we're going to make a cauliflower cream. And we're going to add some fats to this in place of the butter. So we're going to do some cashews, a cup of cashews. And we're going to go with a little bit of water. Not too much. We want to try to keep from adding too much extra moisture to this. I need a lid for those potatoes, or that gravy. Whoops.
So what are you making now in your blender?
I am doing a cream for the potatoes. So instead of milk and butter, we're going to do a cauliflower cream with cashews in it. So let's see, and we got our potatoes, cauliflower, garlic. Garlic is cooked into the potatoes, and then we're going to put some salt. So we're going to go ahead and just spoon out. Oh, I've done this once before. Good thing I saw that. That would be disastrous. We wouldn't be having cauliflower cream in our potatoes. Cauliflower cream with a side of plastic. So this is 2 heads of cauliflower, like I said, and they've been steamed ahead of time. All right, and we're going to go ahead and just blend this down. And we'll see if we need to add more water. We probably will, but again, we don't want to add too much water. We want to keep them not too moist because we want to mash it into our potatoes and not have them too runny. So who has tried just cauliflower mashed potatoes that are just cauliflower? Has anybody done that? It's kind of a thing, I guess, for some people. That they're watching their carbs because carbs are bad, you know. They're not bad. They're very good for you. Our body runs on carbohydrates. Our brain depends on carbohydrates. But anyway, I wanted to incorporate, the plain cauliflower potatoes wouldn't fly with my family. They like potatoes, and there's nothing wrong with potatoes. Potatoes are healthy. They're a good source of carbohydrates, and we need carbohydrates. So, but I wanted to incorporate that healthy component into the potatoes and make them like half and half, which is what we're doing tonight, and they're super good. So anyway, okay, let's get these blending. That makes a really, really great cream. And that's about the weight, that's about the thickness that we want it. And you're going to need a good strong blender for that. You could probably do in a standard blender, you could probably maybe do it in quarters, possibly half, but I would start with like a 1/4 cup of cashews, soak your cashews in a little bit of water, and then blend it with your cauliflower. Anytime you soak those nuts and seeds, and that's why I soak the dates for the pie, and I do that, the seeds for the almond, or the almonds for the almond milk, I soak them for several hours before because they blend much easier in like a standard blender. So we're going to go ahead and add these to our potatoes. And I need my masher. Let's see, what did I do with my potato masher? There it is right there. Make sure I got all the water out of there. Pretty good. I'm going to need my spatula again. What's that? I do. Because I'm always losing it. I had two. I had a purple one at one time, and it got grinded up in this. Don't ever, ever, ever stick your spatula in the blender when it's running. It's like it just sucks it. No matter how careful you are, it sucks it down in there. And it was last time I did that, it was when I was doing a green drink, and that green went everywhere. It wasn't thick at all. It was very watery, and so it went really far. It wasn't pretty. I'm going to turn the heat under these potatoes while I'm just a little bit while I'm. So I want to make sure they are good and warm. And then I'm just going to mash them with a potato masher. You can do a blender if you want. I like my potatoes with a little bit of texture. And this is just, to me, it's just easier than pulling out the blender. So back to potatoes and the fact that they're high carb food. Carbohydrates, again, it's our body's main source of fuel. It's our fuel for our brain, and we need carbohydrates. Potatoes, yes, they don't have the high antioxidant amount that blueberries do, or kale or broccoli, but that's why when you're having a big bowl of mashed potatoes, which you can do any time of year. I think about Thanksgiving, and people ask me, what do you eat for Thanksgiving? It's like, I don't really care, because I can have any of these foods anytime. That's the beauty of living in this wonderful country that we live in. We can get foods at our fingertips, any Thanksgiving food, any time of the year. So you can have mashed potatoes and gravy every week if you want. But just make sure you have a big pile of broccoli with that, or kale, or I even make mashed potatoes where I stir in some chopped frozen spinach. I just heat it a little bit. I squeeze the moisture out of it, because it gets a lot of moisture when it's frozen. Squeeze the moisture out of it and then stir it into your potatoes. It looks very pretty. Great for a holiday meal. And I didn't put any salt in this. I don't know where my salt went. It's probably in here. Wonder where my salt went. Okay. So yes, the problem with potatoes is what we put on them, and we haven't put anything bad on them. Although they're, those cashews are pretty high fat. It's not something I wouldn't do the cashews like for every every potato meal. This is kind of a special dish for Christmas or for Thanksgiving, but I like to do, because I can't do nuts, I've got a little sensitivity to nuts, so I'm kind of staying away from them, but I just do the cauliflower cream and pour it into the potatoes and mash that up, and that's really good too. But the nuts just make it really extra special. So smashing this by hand like really works your muscles too, which is important. Exercise is an important part of being healthy and strengthening your immune system as well. And you're doing both right now. My heart rate's going up. Okay, I'm just going to get a little bit more of that out of here. Whoops. Okay. I'm going to, okay, we still need to do, whipped cream for our pie. So, get this mess out of the way. Well, that didn't get very clean there. All right, so we are going to do a whipped cream with, that gravy's boiling pretty good. We're going to do whipped cream with, we're doing some more cashews and a sweet potato. And the sweet potato I'm using tonight for this is, and what I use always, is just a white sweet potato. You can use the Japanese sweet potatoes that I was talking about earlier that are really sweet. They work really well on this because of that extra sweetness. In fact, you probably wouldn't need to use as many dates. So I've got, again, to help soften things up a little bit for doing it in like a standard blender, although it's much better to do it this way even if you've got a strong blender. You want to soak your dates and nuts to help them just blend up better. Anyway, I've got my 1/4 cup of cashews and however many dates there are for the whipped cream, about 8. And so we're just going to put that in there along with our sweet potato, 1 cup of white sweet potato. Yes, it is. And I just baked it. You could do, if you wanted to boil it, you know, if you just needed to do it really quick, cook them really quick, you could just boil it. It would add a little bit of moisture, which would probably be fine, because I think we're going to add a little bit of moisture to this. Need my lid here. Now again, we don't want to add too much moisture to this because we want a cream. Go with a little bit of water. Let's see, thought I had some water there. But not too much. So the way this is blending, how it's really thick, that's kind of how the pie is. The pie filling, if you do it in a blender, it just takes a little bit of work to get that. And this is going to be a little, you know, it's not going to be white cream like your Cool Whip, because when you're using whole foods, dates and the sweet potato that's got a little bit of caramely brown in it, it's just a little bit off color. All right, there we go. I just needed to turn it up on high. And we need a little bowl to put that in. Oh, thank you for reminding me about the vanilla. Yes, it needs to have vanilla in there. Let's see, how much do we want? We want about a teaspoon. Again, we'll just guess on that. That bowl's not going to be big enough. That made a lot of cream. And this cream would be probably good over even some fruit. All right, there's our whipped cream. And let's see, we need a spoon for that. All right, let's check on those vegetables. And hopefully they're really close to being done, if not done. Well, the potatoes might not be quite done, but actually, we're going to leave those in there a little bit longer. I'll let you guys come up and get your other stuff. So we've got our mashed potatoes there. Let me get a spoon for them. And our gravy. I think that's about perfect. And let's see, I guess that's all we have is with we need our vegetables. I think I'll go ahead and pull them out. Those potatoes might be a little crunchy, but the vegetables look really good, so. Actually, I'll just leave those in. Okay, you guys, don't be shy. Don't be shy. I've got, let me get our plates. What am I missing? I feel like I'm missing something. Yeah. What's that? Oh, the Parmesan, yes. So sesame Parmesan is, so I halved the recipe. So half a cup of sesame seeds, 1.5 tablespoons, oh dear, I'm not going to remember now. 1.5 tablespoons or a teaspoon of onion powder, about a teaspoon of salt, and a couple tablespoons of nutritional yeast. That's probably pretty close. I'll be happy to send it to you if you want me to email you, and I will send you, in fact, I'll add it to my recipe sheet so I can send it to those at home. It is in that book, yes. So the main thing is the sesame seeds. Sesame seeds have a very kind of a bitter taste, and they just take on, this makes a really great Parmesan. I mean, of course, it doesn't taste just like Parmesan cheese, but adds a nice, so we're going to I'm going to have that here for you, and you guys can sprinkle that on. In fact, I'll just sprinkle it on right now while I'm here. And you can add a little bit more if you want to taste it. You can put some in your hand and just taste it by itself if you want to do that. Oh gosh, okay, so half a cup of sesame seeds, and they're the brown sesame seeds, the unhulled. and a teaspoon of onion powder, a teaspoon of salt, and a couple tablespoons of nutritional yeast. That's for half the recipe. The recipe was for a cup. And I mean, you could look it up, Lynn. It's in that book if you want to look it up and just check me. All right, you guys, let's see. Let me get a spatula for the veggies. We got our plates. Let me get some spoons. Those of you at home, thank you for joining us. Wish you could come join us and taste some of the food. But again, if you want those recipes, health4lifecooking@gmail.com. So until next time, we'll see you then.